We asked our 60 Jenson ambassadors what their favorite tire choices were for all mountain and trail riding, and here's what they picked. What's up everyone, Mark here and Alex from Jenson USA to do a video we thought would be super helpful for all of our viewers and all the riders out there in the scene, and that's top tire choices and why they're super important to us when we're out there riding.
Yeah, I would say tires are probably one of the #1 upgrades that you should do to your bike if things aren't feeling right. That's one of the first things you should check is your tires.
So in this video, we're basically gonna go over the basics of the importance of tires and what makes them up, starting with everything from tire size, to compounds, to casings, and then we'll move into some of our picks that we've seen here. We actually polled a lot of our Jenson athlete ambassadors and asked them what their favorite tires were in correlation with some of our favorite tires that we know that we ride and a lot of the employees here at Jenson, and we broke them down into different categories, but primarily we're focusing here on your trail and all mountain tire with a little bit of dabbling into that enduro. Depending on that situation you're riding in, you may want to go in to that little bit gnarlier of a tire. So I guess sit back, we're going to dive into these tires, dive into some great information, and get you back out there pedaling and having the best time on your bike. All right, so let's start off here with the basics on understanding your tire size and the importance of those sizings and how they fit with your riding style. There's basically going to be 3 sizes of tires, and although we don't need to get into that with wheel sizing, it's just important to make sure you match the tire to your wheel size, right? Whether that's 26, because you're still living in those days. I find myself living in the 26-inch days still. Whether you're going 27.5, 29, or maybe your bike's a mixed wheel setup and you're going to have the multiple tire sizes there. So it's important to pay attention to that when it comes to your general diameter of sizing. The other aspect when it comes to tire sizing is the width. And although width can go all the way down to 2 inches and go all the way up to, fat tires or 3.5s, we're primarily focusing on this video here with a general concept of trail and all mountain with, like I said, a little bit of touching into the enduro aspect, because some people like to have a little bit gnarlier of a tire on their bike. So with that sizing, typically we're focusing here on the lower end, around 2.3 inches on width here, going all the way up to like a 2.6 if you're getting a little bit gnarlier on a downhill or an enduro tire. And with that, basically, is just the understanding is that the wider your tire is, the more of that tread pattern that you're going to get hitting the ground and giving you the grip that you need. Importantly, with those sizing and those width comes with tread pattern. And although I'm not going to discuss the importance of every individual aspect of tread pattern, I just want to say that tread is super important when it comes to the tire, because this is where characteristics like shedding mud, if you're riding in a muddier condition.
Oh, that's muddy. Yeah. Oh, splashed right in my eyes.
Yeah. Riding in much more wet conditions, or even with with dry, hard pack settings, having the right tread pattern is going to be super important for when you're getting out there riding the bike. But we're going to get into those individually with each set of tires with our top picks here. But just know that tread pattern is super important.
All right, so next we're going to get into compounds, and basically what the compound refers to is how soft the rubber is. So basically a softer compound is going to give you a little bit more grip, but it's also going to be a little slower rolling, and it's not going to last quite as long. A harder compound is going to do the opposite. It's not going to have quite as much grip, but it's going to last a bit longer, and it's going to roll a bit faster, especially on hard pack.
Yeah, absolutely. And with tire compounds, like we're seeing a lot more come out too, where we're getting dual compounds on tires, right? Where they're kind of mixing, the tread and everything together. And so you're getting the kind of mixed bag of what to expect on that tire.
So one of the things that people tend to get confused with is the compound versus the casing. And what the casing refers to is the thread count in the actual tire. The higher the thread count, the stiffer that the sidewall is going to be, and the lower the thread count, the more that it's going to be able to flex. It's kind of just a personal preference thing, but it's a good thing to keep in mind when you're buying your tires.
All right, now we've kind of gone over some of the generalities when it comes to tires, from tread patterns to sizing to compounds and casings. Again, these were just very basic understandings, because that's going to help understand why some of these tires are the top picks with our Jenson ambassadors, as well as a lot of the Jenson employees here. So let's get into the important part that we've all been waiting for and dive into the top picks of tires we have here at Jenson USA. All right, let's get into our first set of tires, which is probably the obvious choice here, which is Maxxis on the top picks here. And so probably going to get a little bit of feedback down there, but we went with the Assegai in the front. This seems to be really, you know, a number one pick when it comes to riding. And you might say, well, that's more of a downhill, that's more of an enduro, you know, tire. But I think in today's age of mountain biking, a little bit, you know, rolling resistance issues is worth it on that grip. You know, Preston behind camera here swears by the Assegai. He said, once I went there, I'll never go back, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Tell me a little about it.
Yeah, so I'm definitely a fan of running just a little bit of a heavier tire. And the reason that I prefer that is because you can get away with running a little bit more pressure, and you're still going to have that grip on the actual knobs. So you can kind of make up for the slower rolling resistance, where if you have a harder compound, you're probably going to have to lower your pressure just a little bit to get that grip, and then you're dealing with your sidewall flexing and some other issues. So my personal preference is to go for a little bit of a heavier tire.
Absolutely. And you know, with that weight sacrifice, it's not that big of a deal. You're getting that, you know, much stronger minion side knob there for that really strong cornering aspect and that good climbing there. The tread pattern here is really nice because you're really getting a nice spacing on tread pattern here to really make sure nothing's getting stuck in that tread. You're getting the grip through your entire ride. But like you said, coming with that little bit softer compound is just something to consider, right? Like we mentioned before, softer compound, it's going to wear a little bit more. But most people agree that that's probably the better choice when it comes to a front.
Yeah, I would say for the Assegai, it's definitely optimized as a front tire, whereas the DHR2 is optimized as a rear. We've seen people switch and use things on different wheels for their preference, but just definitely looking at the tread, you can tell this has a little bit more of a spaced out tread pattern. And then this one has kind of these like paddles almost that help with braking and with climbing.
So when we're talking about this one, let's get into the next pick here when it comes to Maxxis tires, and this is the DHR2, like Alex was just talking about here, and it has these really nice paddles here for when it comes to tread pattern, right? And so this is a little bit lighter of a tire. You may see some people talk about DHR in the rear, DHF up front, but we, you know, polling our Jenson athletes, talking to other people that personally ride these things, this is what we believe is probably a top combo and the top tire picks here for Maxxis. All right, so let's move into another really great brand that we carry here at Jenson, and that is Continental. And the pick that we hear is probably another obvious pick if you know anything about Continental tires. And if you don't, Cryptotol. It is, you know, probably the best tire when it comes to those trail, all mountain, even going into the enduro aspect of riding. Now with the Cryptotol, there is a front and rear specific tire when it comes to these tires. But like our good buddy Charlie over at Continental has said, you can even run a dual rear on your bike. It just kind of depends on those conditions.
Keep in mind that both of these tires are considered front and rear, and they're labeled that way, but you shouldn't think that way when you're picking these tires out. You know, a lot of people like to ride the Cryptotol fronts in the front and rear if you're in more of a hard condition. Me personally, I live in Denver. Right now it's snowy, it's muddy. I run the rears front and rear. It's a little bit more bite, a little bit more braking traction on the front. They said, the world's your oyster, you can choose whatever you like.
So pro tip from Continental right here. So when we look at the Cryptotol front, for example, we're getting that really nice shoulder cornering knob on there on the tread because it's going to give you that really predictable aspect when it comes to cornering on your bike. And similar to like the Assegai that we've seen, it's got that 3-lug pattern down the center, which I think is really good for that grip and for that, you know, that climbing and everything else that you need on that tire. Whereas on the Cryptotol rear here, you're only getting that dual lug down the center, but still that very similar shoulder lug on the side.
Yeah, we've heard great things about these tires. They're tires that I definitely want to try out soon.
So with the Cryptotol, you're going to have a multitude of options, whether that be your casing, and they keep it very specific, whether you want all the way from, you know, soft to super soft. Make sure you kind of align that with the aspect that you're riding. And keep in mind, like we mentioned, the softer the compound, the more it's going to deteriorate, but you're going to get that better grip. So depending on where you're riding and the conditions, try to match that accordingly to get the most use out of that tire.
So next we're going to get into these specialized tires. These are actually some of my favorite tires that I've tried out. I think some people tend to shy away from them because of the branding, but I know once I tried them, they actually really surprised me on how great the compound is. They come in both a T7 and a T9 compound. So the T7 is going to be a little bit more trail focused. The T9 is going to be a little softer for enduro. I personally prefer the T9 just because it's got tons of grip. And I run a 2.6 Butcher on my bike, so that's my personal preference, but you can also run the Eliminator in the rear, which is going to be a little bit faster rolling, and they're just great tires.
Yeah, I mean, I ran them on my Specialized Enduro for about a year, and I really enjoyed them. I didn't have any faults with the tire at all. Never had any issues when I was out there. Primarily what we're riding around here is like kind of loose over hard pack, and they just, you know, they seem to perform really well. Like I never had issues even when going out riding in some more muddier conditions where they were like losing grip or anything like that. I think they perform super strongly. They have a really nice shoulder lug, so every time I was cornering, I knew exactly what I was going to get, you know, out of that feel. It was never unpredictable. You know, you kind of knew exactly what was going to come with it. And they lasted a long time. I wasn't seeing a real quick deterioration. I was running T7s on mine, and it just, there wasn't an issue. And I know, like you said, like some people tend to shy away and just, you know, automatically, you know, stray towards a Maxxis or something else. But I think that, you know, this is not something you should take off your radar. You know, and I was running the Butcher Eliminator combo because it performs super strongly on the bike, and I got a lot of miles out of those tires.
Yeah, they're definitely great tires. They're super consistent feeling. And the branding on them is pretty clean, so I don't think they're going to look out of place on your bike no matter what brand you're riding.
And they come in at a great price, right?
Yeah,
so
they
if
do.
you know you don't want to shell out bucks for, you know, a more expensive tire, you're going to get a great tire at a great price. All right, so let's move in now to Schwalbe. Schwalbe, I think most people know, if you know anything about, you know, the racing, you've seen Schwalbe out there, you've seen the performance that these tires can offer when it comes to the race aspect of mountain biking. But how do they fit into all mountain or, you know, just trail riding when it comes per se to a tire?
Yeah, I would definitely say if overall grip is your main priority versus longevity, these are definitely the great option. They just provide a ton of grip. They're definitely a super soft compound. The Magic Mary comes in soft or super soft, so they're definitely leaning towards that aspect of riding.
Absolutely. So, I mean, again, we can say the same statements over and over again, but if the style of riding you're looking for is more of a grip and you don't mind that longevity not being there forever, like a cross-country tire, then Schwalbe is going to really offer you that kind of grip and that freedom to have fun on your bike with you're not concerned about an aspect of your riding where it takes you out of just getting out there having fun on your bike. Now that's really with the Magic Mary. A little bit more on the trail side is the Knobby Nick, which tends to have a little bit more of a balance compound in their aspect. And so you're going to kind of get that dual compound here where it's, you know, it's grippy, but it also has a little bit more longevity. So if you're kind of leaning more towards a little bit longevity aspect, you're sacrificing a little bit of that grip and you don't mind it, then I would say go with the Knobby Nick. It's not going to have as much of that big lug pattern that you're getting out of the Magic Mary, but you're going to get that longevity. It's going to perform on that hard pack. It's going to perform on those longer trail rides and that kind of aspect.
Yeah, and I would say if you want to run a combo of both, if you want to run the Magic Mary in the front, you're going to get kind of an even wear between the two, and that could be a great combo if you're looking for the extra grip up front and a little more longevity in the rear. I think they go great together as a pair.
Absolutely. All right, so these have been some of our top tire picks with the basic understandings of the importance in tire features here, whether you're running Cryptotals front rear or a double rear, whether you're running Maxxis with the Assegai up front and the DHR in the rear, or you're running Schwalbes with a Magic Mary in the front, a Knobby Nick in the rear, or you're even going to the combos with Specialized here with a Butcher in front and Eliminator in the rear. No matter what, if you pick some of these tires here, you're not going to go wrong, but just make sure that you align them with the style of riding that you're doing and the conditions of the dirt that you're putting that tire on. With that, these tires grip you on the ground, but what grips you on your bike is the grips on your bars. We've also done another video here on the top 10 or top so many grips we've done on our picks here at Jenson USA, so make sure to check that video out next. And as always, stay tuned. We got more videos coming. Keep pedaling.
Yo.